But the the other piece of how burnout can happen, though, is what I call 1 + 1 = thinking, where expectations are created about what my outcome should look like. And I see this happen in writers the most often, who are either, let me say, career younger, right? Like the first 5 years of career, or have had not the results that they're looking for. And 1 + 1 = thinking means that if I work hard at a 1 level, then I should get a 1 outcome. And if I work hard to a 2 level, I should get a 2 outcome, and a 3 level, and so on. So that I have developed an internal expectation that if I work hard, I will get the outcome that I want, no matter what. And then what happens, because Captain America is not in charge of the publishing industry, Loki's in charge. And it is wildly unpredictable and often unfair and often unequal, in a sense of unpredictably unequal, right? Like, so I can make all of the right steps, put all of the right moves and work extremely hard, make all the sacrifices. And then Amazon shuts down ranking on the day that I release. And there's literally nothing that I can do to compensate for that. I've spent all this money and time, and my one day gets shot because of something someone else does, right? So there's a level of inequality, regardless of other inequalities that also do exist, right? But there's a specific type of unpredictable Loki's in charge inequality in the publishing industry. The problem is, if I have a 1 + 1 = mindset, then I'm putting in 1 work and getting 1 result, and then put in 3 work and get 1 result, and put in 5 work and get 1 result. I keep trying to double the amount of work that I put in, assuming that it's going to have an impact on my result. And that continuing to work harder and not seeing the success respond the way that you think that it should is the other place that burnout happens the most consistently. And we see this happen a lot in the gold rush mentality, where there's an expectation that if I just do everything right, that I'm going to sell, or that there somehow is a magic formula, that if I just follow this magic formula, that I'm going to sell. And as I continue to do that work but not see the outcome, I only have so much energy for that, when the expectation is, and it's because I'll keep doubling my workload and doubling my workload. So hopefully that answers a little bit about like where burnout comes from, and why it happens. And you don't have to read the book. That's sort of the primer about it. And like I said, feel free to ask questions if anybody has them, either in the chat or live.
That makes so much sense. And I see a lot of hedgies going like, oh, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that is what's happening. It sounds like making an invisible contract with the universe, right? Like with the unpredictability of the universe, making this invisible contract with a being you cannot see, a system that you cannot predict. And when you have this unpredictability, I've totally worked harder because I made this contract without realizing it. And I love that over the course of your book, Dear Writer, Are You in Burnout? It is often said that be mindful, be mindful, and be mindful of these internal expectations that you're putting on yourself and the expectations that you're putting on yourself externally as well. And then something that I wanted to repeat, because I thought it was really important, is that burnout is not caused by hard work alone. I thought that was so interesting, and such a relief to hear that you can work really hard. And as long as you have this, let's say, this hammock that you can just go and relax in. And this hammock is going to be, we use cup filling in the Hedgie House, but penny
Yeah.
giving, right? So
Yep.
same idea, Hedgies. Penny giving, cup filling, same idea, different words. So we work really hard, but then we have this hammock and we're like, I'm gonna hang out in this hammock. Let's call that our safety net because we're in the land of metaphors for this hour. And so we are hanging out on our safety net. Literally, it is predictable. It is grounding. I mean, not really, but like it's connected to the ground, fine. So we're swinging, we're fine. And what Becca is saying is that if there is now a hole in that hammock, this external life experience that has happened to us, and maybe we've even chosen it, right? Like I have chosen to move to rural Arkansas, this completely new place. Carrie has chosen to move from California to Georgia. And yet, like this choice still has a consequence and it has still burned a hole in the hammock. So now she's like, I'm going to use you, Carrie. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start this next book series. And then she works on it. And then she goes to lay on her hammock to recharge. And then she falls to the ground and she's like, what in the world? But my hammock, I moved it from California. It's totally fine. I reinforced it 5 times. And so I just felt that that was really important to bring up and repeat to everybody. And we have a question from Chrisanne. Does this apply equally to people who are not necessarily high drive people? Does it take them longer to burn out?
Yeah, let me address two parts of that. One is the inequality of the 1+1, right? Like people who are higher drive tend to go for the multiplications quicker, right? So they tend to go to 2, 4, 8, 16. People with lower drive tend to do 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. But because their expectations are still that there's a 1+1, they're still going to burn out at the same level every time they try to multiply the hard work they're doing. And it's because, and let me say, I always contextualize words like high drive because you can be high drive for work or high drive for relationships or high drive for stability or high drive for, like, there are all kinds of things that you can have a drive towards. Not all of them are work drives. And we tend to put work drive above other drives because there are reasons, and I won't get into them, but there are reasons for that. But you can be low work drive and high family drive or high relationship drive or high sustainability drive. Like, honestly, there are all kinds of different things that you can be driven to do. But in terms of being like, I am not a person who needs to fulfill the goals that I set, for instance, like if that's kind of what a not a high drive person would look like, you still will burn out if you have an expectation that you should be seeing an outcome that you're not seeing. And I think it was Sam who brought up the point about like when other people appear to be doing 1+1=2 and it appears to be working for them, then we can get caught up in the like, why me? Why is it not working for me? And instead of the acceptance of, and again, this is why I say things like Loki is in charge. It's not that I actually think there's a chaos god out there who's actually in charge of things. It's more that when we can find the source of what we think is at fault, it's easier for us to let go of something, right? So like, and this is just the downside of publishing, is that most books don't sell in the publishing world. And so when we have an outcome that is not what we had hoped or not what we see other people getting, the quicker we can get to a place where we can jump back on the horse, metaphorically, the better it is for our long-term career. Because often there is no way to figure out why something happened to someone else and why it didn't happen to me. And even in my job, that's one of the things that I do a lot, is talk to people about like, why did this not work? And we can sometimes deconstruct for 45 minutes why we think it didn't work. And they can come back to me 2 years later and be like, well, it turned out that Amazon was down that day and I didn't know it. And I'm like, see, like there's just too many potential factors. It is so rarely that there's just one reason. Like I just didn't bid high enough on my Facebook ads, or I got the wrong book cover, or something, where I wrote a book that wasn't up to par. Like it's so rare that it's just one easily identifiable reason that I can fix. It's so much more common that it's either too complicated or there is no reason, like no visible reason why it happens.